Alrighty then. You probably don't know what's going on with the photo, but basically, this is going to be what if Deku had hellflame? You know, Endeavor's quirk. I hate Endeavor, but he's getting better, I guess. But this was a request by I still don't fucking know anyone's name. God damn it, I'm a terrible YouTuber. But so this was a request. Oh shit, I should turn off my fan. Ugh. If you can hear the fan, I turned it on because my room is a blistering mess, but apparently this phone picks up every single bit of audio. If you didn't hear it, I'm gonna start turning on my fan from now on. But basically, this will be what if Deku had hellflame, like Endeavor. So the way this story is going to work, Izuku is not going to be a Midoriya. This is gonna be like Izuku in the photo. This is what he's gonna look like, and you can probably already tell that he's going to be a Todoroki. Yep. He's going to be a part of this dysfunctional family. But, so the way this will work, Deku's going to be Todoroki's twin brother. There's going to be Shoto Todoroki, and there's going to be Izuku Todoroki. I'm not changing his name. I'm still going to probably call him Deku or Izuku, and I'm still going to call Todoroki or Shoto Todoroki. Just to keep my sanity in check. So, Deku's born. He has red hair. He's born a little bit before Todoroki, let's say. So he has red hair. His eyes are blue. He looks like, kind of like Endeavor, because Endeavor has red hair and his eyes are blue. So, what's it called? So, then, Todoroki's born. He has half, he looks exactly the same. So, basically, Endeavor's already decided that Todoroki's probably, if anyone's going to be the perfect mix that he wants, it's going to be Todoroki. So, because basically, look at Todoroki. Because Deku does not have, any white in his hair. He looks just fully redheaded. The white in the photo in the guy's hair is just basically from the light. But I don't own this photo, by the way. I'm going to probably put that in the description like I always do. But, so Deku, he basically, he's living with, Todoroki. And, they're living a pretty average, childish life. Basically, they go to the same daycare and all that stuff, right? So then, they're 4 years old now, and they get their quirks evaluated immediately. So, Todoroki, we'll go with Deku first. Deku has hellflames, Endeavor's quirk. But, they're basically like, yeah, he has hellflames like your quirk, but it seems like it'll probably be a little bit more powerful, if not, maybe a lot more powerful. Endeavor, he's intrigued by this, basically. He's like, maybe he can be the perfect one. And then, then they're like, but your other son, he has a half and half quirk, and he looks at them, and then they're like, yeah, it's half hot, half cold. And, all you can hear from the outside of the hospital is, Shoto! You just hear that. And then just basically, immediately after that, basically they go home. Endeavor basically forgot what Deku's quirk was immediately and just went to training, Todoroki. So, Deku feels a bit abandoned, but he also sees, what Todoroki's going through. And he basically swears to himself that he's not going to let his father, do this type of thing to his brother, and basically going to stop his father at one point. So he trains hard, harder than even Todoroki trains. But, at this point, Endeavor doesn't really care about Izuku, So Deku, he's sent to his old school, basically, the one he goes to in canon. So it's an elementary. I'm pretty sure he's in elementary now, I think. Whatever he's in. Either kindergarten or elementary. So, everybody's they're introducing this boy. His name is, Izuku Todoroki. And he'll be joining our class. And, he explains that his quirk is hell flames. And, he just shoots, fire. And he can control it to a certain extent. And, everybody's like, whoa, that's cool. And, then there's this girl in the back. She's like, well, I mean, that's a pretty cool quirk, but I think I could beat you. And, Deku hears this, and, he's like, so, who are you? And, she's like, my name's Katsume Bakugo. I'm sorry, I had to make this happen. Actually, I don't regret anything. Why am I saying sorry? I don't regret this. So, she's like, Katsuki Bakugo, or Katsume. I don't really care. But so she's just like, yeah, I'm Katsume Bakugo or Katsumi or Katsuki or whatever the fuck you want to say. Either Katsuki is what's it called? Is a gender neutral quirk. So I'm just gonna gender neutral name. So I'm still gonna call him like Katsumi. I'm gonna call him Katsumi. So her name's Katsumi Bakugo. And then he's like, so what's their quirk? She's like, oh, it's explosions. I saw it nitroglycerin. You know, Deku still is interested in quirks. So he's like, wow, that's an amazing quirk. You know, basically stuff like that. And, you know, she's like, oh, well, thank you. You know, so like, she's a nicer person in this one because, you know, she's a younger girl. Not because, you know, when girls hit teenagers, they're all dicks. I'm joking. But basically, like, you know, they become friends really quick, you know. So basically, you know, Deku, like, he doesn't, like, they don't really tell anyone that he's Endeavor's kid. So nobody really knows that. But Deku becomes best friend with, you know, Katsuki. And then he calls her Kachan still. Or, yeah, Kachan. So he's like, so, Kachan, what are we going to be doing today? You know, then she's like, we're going to be going on an adventure and stuff like that. So they go out, they go play, right? So basically, like, that's just him meeting his new friends. But whenever he's home, he just trains, and then he eats, trains, and then sleeps. And then so what's it called now? So Deku, he's like he's just been training a lot. So his flames are hot. They're still orange because, you know, the person requested it, but they're like hot. So they're at Dobby levels, but his quirk is made for his body, so he won't burn himself. But, you know, he hits a wall. At this point, he's like, okay, I overheat now. Like, you know, he starts to overheat a lot whenever he uses his quirk, and, you know, it makes him pass out. So he's, like, thinking of ways to, like, deal with this. So, you know, at this point, Deku's, like, 10 years old. That's when he starts to hit this wall. So now Deku's trying to find ways to, like, get around it. Basically, like, he searches up, like, ways to do it. Like, he doesn't want to ask his dad. Like, he's doing that as, like, a last resort if ever need be. So he's just training, like, he's trying to find ways to, like, handle the heat. So he searched up on a bunch of flame heroes, sees how they deal with it, and sees that theirs are a lot different from his, you know, all except for Endeavor, who never tells his shit because he doesn't talk to press. You know, Deku knows that Endeavor's a dickhead to everybody and not just, you know, his family. So Deku's like, God damn it, I have to ask him. Like, you know, he's pissed. So he's like, alright. So he goes over to Endeavor, who's, you know, still training Shoto. But, you know, like, at this point, you know, Todoroki has a scar, so he refuses to use his fire, basically. You know, Endeavor's, like, just being like, use your flames, damn it. And, you know, Deku, he walks up to Endeavor, he taps him on like, the side. And then he's like, what do you want, child? He's like, how do you deal with, you know, overheating? Basically, like, so he just asks him that, like, and then Endeavor looks at him confused. He's like, why do you want to know? He's like, just tell me, old man. And, you know, Endeavor just tells him, like, he trained his body to handle the heat at one point. And he's like, all right, but how do you do that? He's like, and then, you know, Endeavor, he's like, I just put my body in, like, hot areas or just, like, kept my flames on for a long period of time until I was able to handle it. So, you know, Deku, he's like, alright, whatever, thanks, old man. And he walks away. He doesn't even actually say thanks. He's just like, alright, whatever, old man. He walks away. You know, Endeavor's confused now because, you know, he never paid attention to Deku. He doesn't know that Deku trains. Like, this was his first time looking at Deku in months. So, like, he realizes that Deku's, like, a bit buffer. Like, because Deku realizes that, you know, he can't fully always rely on his quirk, like a smart guy. So he does train his body. So he realizes Deku's a bit buffer. So he's like, all right, Shoto, that's the end of training for today. So then, you know, he basically, like, follows Deku around as a good father. Because, you know, he's not a good father. But he just follows Deku around to be Snoopy. Because that's the kind of guy Endeavor is. Forgive me. Alright. So now, Endeavor, he's basically, like, you know, he's following Deku around. And Deku does kind of, like, Deku doesn't realize it because, you know, he's not that fucking amazing as much as I want him to be. So Deku, he's sitting down in, like, the beach. He's trying to think of ways to train his body. And I'm going to steal this idea from Rogex, alright? So Deku, he gets the idea. So he takes off his shirt. He like, he puts like his boxers. He's like wearing his boxers, and he takes off his pants. He runs into the water, and Endeavor, he's confused. So he like then he looks at Deku, and like he sees that the ocean is boiling. And he's like, what the hell is the kid doing? And he's slowly like rising his temperature up to where like it's at the boiling point, and he just submerges his head under there basically, and for as long as he can hold it, which is probably like a minute at most. So he's just submerging his head for a minute, and then he takes a deep breath for a little bit, breathes, and then does it again. So Endeavor's just basically watching him. He's like, wow, this kid, like, what the hell's up with this kid? Why is he trying so hard? Shoto's, like, gonna be the perfect mix either way. In Todoroki, he knows that Deku trains a lot, but he doesn't get why, basically. He doesn't really understand it, but he just gets it, so he just lets Deku do whatever. And, Deku, he just is just training also. He's just been training his ass off. And he's 15 now. He goes under the bridge, stuff like that. Well, everything happens the same. Katsume doesn't make her same speech because she's not a dickhead, like Bakugo at least. So, Deku's hanging out with Katsume. They're walking together. They're basically, like, leaving. Deku is stronger than her because he trains a lot more than her. Even though she does train a lot, but not nearly as much as Deku. Because Deku trains himself to the brink. So he's pretty fucking strong now. His flames are already at like Dabi levels. So they're already like hot. Because they're always like, Dabis are always blue, but Deku stays orange. Because he likes, it goes with his hair more. And he can choose like what the color is, I guess. He can choose whether it goes from blue to, what's it called, from orange to blue, and he knows that he just used blue flames into bursts that will like do heavier attacks basically. I'm sorry. I'm pre-recording all of this, so I've made like 3 videos in a row now. So Deku, he just basically, he's walking with Katsuki. They're talking about like what are they gonna do for the next 10 months on training wise, And then he's like, we should train together. She's like, yeah, that would be fun, stuff like that. So Deku, he's training. He's going under the bridge with her, and then the sludge villain attacks. Deku just pushes, Katsume out of the way. And then, like, sludge villain jumps on him, like, I'm gonna need your body, kid. And, Deku heats up his body, and now the sludge villain is, like, bubbling up, and then he hops off Deku. He's like, fine then, if he has a flame quirk, damn it. Like, he's pissed. He's like, alright, how about that, girl? So he rushes for Katsuki, but she expects it, unlike, Kanon Katsuki Bakugo. And then, like, he expects it, so she, like, shoots a big explosion at him, like, boom. So, Deku, like, surprised that her explosions are that strong, because he hasn't fought her or anything like that, because he has no reason to, they're best friends. So, Deku, he's just been, like, he's basically, they're fighting the sludge villain off, and then All Might shows up, and, he sees that, like, they're beating up the sludge villain, so he does, like, a little bit of a smash, and then, like, sludge villain splats across the wall, and, Deku doesn't really care. He likes All Might more than Endeavor at least, but he doesn't really care about All Might. Katsuki, she's the one who's, freaking out. So she's like, oh my god, it's All Might and stuff like that, because, she's fangirling. And then, like, Deku's like, alright, chill out, Katsuki, And she's like, chill out, Kachan, it's not that serious. She's like, what do you mean it's not that serious? It's All Might, And he's like, well, yeah, you're right, that is your favorite hero, I guess. Deku doesn't really have a favorite hero. He's his own favorite hero. Like, so, All Might's like, well, I'll be going now. And, so, but he's like, so what are you two's quirks? And, Deku says hellflame, and, Bakugo says, or Katsuki says, explosions. And, like, and All Might looks at, like, Izuku, he's like, what's your name, boy? And then, he basically says, Izuku Todoroki, and then, so, and, like, and All Might's like, oh, that's why I recognize you, you're Endeavor's son, and, Deku's like, yeah, and, Bakugo didn't know this, so she's like, what, you're Endeavor's kid? And he's like, yeah, so, and then she's like, why didn't you tell me this? He's like, you never asked. like she's pissed at him. She's like, what do you mean? And, you know, she's shooting sparks out of her hands and stuff. And he's like, chill out there, you know, chill out, boom, boom. And then she's like, what the hell did you just call me? He's laughing and walks away. And then like, you know, I'm like, wait a minute, like, I want to train you two for the 10 months. Because, you know, he doesn't know whether they're worthy or not, but he does want to train them and, like, see. And, you know, basically, Deku's already, like, pretty much way stronger than Katsuki, but, you know, they don't know that yet. So Deku, he's like, yeah, sure, why not, I guess. You know? God, I've taken so many sips, I'm so sorry. But, so basically, you know, Deku's just like, yeah, sure, why not? That would be fun, you know, because he's not thinking of it like training with All Might. He's thinking of it like, you know, laughing at Endeavor. Because, you know, like, at this point, he's figured out that sometimes Endeavor follows him when he trains just to see, like, what he's doing. So he knows, like, Endeavor will get a kick out of this one. So, you know, Deku smiles, and he plans on telling Todoroki about this and asking, and he asks, can, like, my brother join? And then he's like, sure, if he's, you know, a Todoroki like you. He's like, yeah, just call me Izuku. He like, isn't used to being called Todoroki. So he's like, alright, young Izuku. Basically, stuff like that. It's weird. So, young Izuku, that's, I don't get it. But, so, Deku, he's basically like, alright, let's go. And, you know, like, you know, Deku gets home, he's like, hey, Fuyumi, you know. She's like, oh, hey, how was your day? He was like, yeah, it was fine. And then, you know, he like, you know, he sees Natsu, he's like, hey, you know, Toya left a long time ago. We already know about Toya. You know, Deku remembers Toya. Todoroki doesn't really, because, you know, Todoroki was busy training. But, you know, Deku remembers Toya. Toya remembers Deku. Stuff like that. So, Deku now, he's just training, basically, like that. And then he like, remembers that he should tell Todoroki about how he's training with All Might. So, you know, Deku walks up to Todoroki, and then Todoroki's like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, I want to invite you to train with me. And, you know, Todoroki's a bit surprised because, you know, he knows that Deku never really, like, you know, trains with anyone. So he's like, why now? He's like, because I have someone that I'm training with that I know that will get under Dad's skin. And, you know, Todoroki hears this, and now he's intrigued. So he's like, you have my attention. And then, you know, Deku basically is like, just come tomorrow, and then you'll see who we're training with. And, you know, basically, Todoroki's like, sure, alright. And then, for this one, we'll say that All Might can be buffed for a bit longer. We could just, because he can't use one for all, but he can be buffed for, like, longer. Just so he doesn't, you know, have to, just so Skinny Might doesn't have to be introduced to Todoroki just yet. But, it'll also help with the whole Endeavor thing. So Deku, he's basically, like, training with, he heads to the Dagobah Beach, because that's where he's told to head. So he sees Katsuki, and he's like, hey, this is Todoroki, or Shoto, this is my brother. And then, you know, and then, like, Shoto's like, hello there. And he's like, who's this? And she's like, that's Katsuki, or I call her Kachan, but, you know, she's my friend from school. And, you know, she's like, oh, it's nice to meet you. And Deku's like, you know, Todoroki's like, thank you for watching my knuckleheaded brother. You know, Deku looks at him funny. He's like, what do you mean knuckleheaded? I'm amazing. And he's like, yeah, sure you are. And, you know, so they're laughing a bit because, you know, Todoroki is more of himself around his own brother. So, then All Might walks up. He's like, hello there. And, you know, Todoroki's surprised that it's All Might. And he looks at Deku, and you know, Deku has the biggest grin on his face. And he's like, you know why. And then, so now Todoroki's smiling his ass off. He's like, yeah, you know, this is going to be great. So, they start their training, you know. He does do muscle training with them, but he also does a lot more combat training since there's 3 of them, and they do it a lot faster. And Deku's already pretty strong. Todoroki's averagely strong. And, you know, Katsuki, she's strong as well, because, you know, remember that, you know, Katsuki Bakugo, the original one, he was, like, the top of his class in everything, including, like, gym. So she's already pretty strong. But, so they finished the trash in, like, 3 months. So now they're doing, like, combat training and stuff like that. And, you know, Deku tries to get, like, Todoroki to use his flames, basically. He's like, you know, you should start using your flames, right? You know, Todoroki's like, you know, I reject that part of, you know, my flames. But at this point, Endeavor already has seen that they're training with All Might, and he hates it. He hates it so much. It's the one thing that, like, you know, gets under his skin, you know. And, you know, sometimes, like, when Deku is, like, is like a bit far away from everybody, and he sees like Endeavor, and he looks at him, he smiles, and then just, you know, starts training again. And Endeavor knows that they're doing this also to get under his skin, so it gets under his skin even more. So that he absolutely hates that they're training with All Might. So then, you know, All Might tells him about his quirk and how he can pass it on and stuff like that. And then you know, Todoroki's like, I already am using, Todoroki's like, I'll become like #1 with my own power. You know, Deku's like, well, I don't really need it. I'm pretty strong on my own. And then like they all look at Bakugo or Katsuki, and then she's like, what? Like you need that more than us, because you know they have shown, like, I'll say in this one, because Deku's stronger, Todoroki is what's it called, a bit stronger too. So, you know, basically Katsuki was lagging behind, so they're like, yeah, it's a quirk enhancer and everything, you're probably gonna need it more than us. So, you know, she's like, alright, whatever, fine. You know, she basically, like, buckles after a while of them, you know, telling her to take it. So, you know, Deku and Todoroki and, you know, Bakugo, they're gonna be the big three, basically, of their class, but, you know, they're not gonna be the big three material yet. So Deku, he's basically trained, and now he's, like, strong as shit. But he's, like, not crazy strong. Like, I'm not gonna make him, like, already in the top 10 heroes, basically. Like I did with Gran Torino Deku, which I made him just so fucking overpowered, because I loved it. But, so he is strong, like, he's stronger than certain second years, and like, he's stronger than most third years in UA at this point. So, we'll give him that, and he is stronger than Katsuki and Shoto. So, like, it's the entrance exam. Like, Todoroki was about to take the recommendations, and then Deku was like, you know what would get under his skin even more? And then, like, Todoroki's attention was piqued, and, you know, he's like, what if you actually took the exams without the recommendation? Basically, like, not using his thing. And, you know, Todoroki, he's like scratching the bottom of his chin. He's like, you know what? You're right, you know? So he doesn't take the recommendations this time. Nor does Deku, because he was offered recommendations by Endeavor, and, you know, Deku was surprised about this, but, you know, he didn't give a shit enough to take the recommendation. So Deku, he's training again. So he trains a bit before the entrance exam, and then he takes a few days off, because, you know, if you train and then, you know, let your body rest, that's good for you. So Deku, he's walking towards UA, you know, and then he sees Katsuki, and he's like, yo, Katsuki. And then she's like, yeah, what's up? She's like, good luck on the test, by the way. You know, he gives her a smile and then heads off. So, you know, Katsuki, she's like, that guy, I swear. Because, you know, look at this guy. He's pretty goddamn hot. But, no homo, though. But, Deku basically, you know, he walks in there. He does the exams. He does as good as, like, Todoroki would, I guess. But he does, like, a little bit better. Actually, no, Todoroki does a little bit better than him. Because I can't make him better than Todoroki at everything. At least something Todoroki has to have over him. Or yeah. So, alright. So, where was I? Alright, so Deku, like, he's heading into the auditorium area. And, you know, he bumps into Shoto. He's like, good luck, man. And then, you know, it's like, yeah, good luck to you, too. And then, so, they sit down in different areas because they went to a different school. Remember, Endeavor didn't care enough to send him to Todoroki's school. So, you know, Todoroki, he's sitting down, basically, and he's sitting next to Momo, of course. So he's like, oh, hello, Yagurozu. And she's like, oh, hello there, Todoroki. No, they make small talk for a little bit, and then she... Actually, no. Momo wouldn't even be there, because she takes the recommendations. My dumbass. Alright. But, so after that, you know, so now Deku, he's sitting next to Katsuki. He's like, good luck, you know, basically. He's like, make sure not to cry when I, you know, kick your ass. And then she's like, what the hell did you say to me? You know, basically, you know, being Katsuki. So she's like, yeah, whatever, nerd, and she heads off. Deku's like, that girl sometimes, because, she's pretty cute. But, so Deku, he's like, so it's about to be the start of the test. Deku walks up, Ida stops him. Ida's like, you shouldn't distract them. He's like, I don't know her, and I want to be on the front. So Ida lets him go, same old, just, what I always say. So, now, now Deku, he's like standing at the front, and then, he doesn't go immediately because he's not rude. So, there's no countdowns in a real battle, go, go, go. Then Deku starts running, basically. And then once people are far enough away from him, he starts flying with the fire. Because, Deku can do that. Deku can kind of do the web shit that Endeavor does, but only with, like, 2 fingers. He can do it with, like, his middle and index finger on both hands. So he does that, basically, and, starts destroying robots. He's blasting them and stuff. So, now, Uraka is caught underneath the rubble. Everybody's running away, and then Deku, he just shoots towards her. He's like, I have to save her, stuff like that. So he basically, like punches into the robot. But, he doesn't have one for all, so nothing happens. And then he yells out, Prominence, burn! And, this huge, like gush of fire just, like, blows up, like, the entire zero-pointer. Like, stopping it from hitting Uraka. And, everybody's like, whoa. And, Endeavor was there to watch Todoroki, so he watched that. And he's impressed. So he's like, wow. Like, he's impressed with it. So, Deku, he walks out of the, like, flamed rubble perfectly fine. Because, flames don't affect him. He picks up the rubble because he's pretty buff. And then, like, helps Uraka. Like, basically, like, carries her on his back and stuff like that. And she's like, thank you. He's like, no problem. So he goes, he gives the Uraka to the recovery girl. Recovery girl is like, you did good, young man. So, would Bakugo have, or would Katsuki have full cowl? We're not gonna say yet, but her explosions are stronger, and, what she did for training was, you ever heard of iron bar or iron muscle training? Basically, like, she hit her arms with, like, iron bars to make them more, like, stronger, so that she could handle bigger explosions, because they were told that it's a quirk enhancer. So she knew that if she used one for all in her quirk, it would make the explosions even bigger. But, since she doesn't know how to control one for all, it would probably damage her a lot. So she does do a little bit better. I'm pretty sure Bakugo had, like, 70 points. Or was that the amount of meters that he threw? Basically, like, we'll say that she has 100. Todoroki has, 90? Or should I? Yeah, because she has one for all. So he'll be in the 90s. Deku will have, like, 110. No, he'll have, 160 for saving Uraka. He got 30 for destroying the robot and 20 for carrying her. But he got a few revoked because he did cause a little bit of damage. So, he has, like, 160. And, like, they're, like, it's the end of the match, Everyone's walking, basically, like, Shoto, he's walking with Deku, and, he sees that, I'm pretty sure they all do the test at the same time, even the recommendation. So, Todoroki sees Momo getting into her limo, and Deku sees Todoroki staring at her. So he's like, oh, so she's your type. He's bumping him like, brothers would, basically. He's like, so she's your type, eh? And, Todoroki's like, it's not like that, alright? And, he's basically, like, slightly red now. He's like, oh, whatever you say, man. Whatever you say. So, Katsuki, she sees this, and she's like, so Icy Hot does, have a heart. And then she, Todoroki's like, shut up, like, talk to me when you confess to each other. And then he walks away. They're red now, because he basically called them out on how they like each other. And, they both, like, laugh, like, that like, cringy laugh, like, where they're like, yeah, whatever, freaking idiot, weirdo, he doesn't really know anything. They look at each other, and then look away quickly, and then are red. So they're like, let's, like, he's like, I'll take you home, and stuff like that. So, she's like, yeah. And then, so they're walking. They do have a week until they get the message whether they got it or not. So, so now, Deku took her home, and, before he leaves, she's like, well, like, you know, she's nervous, so she's like, you want to have dinner on like Saturday, and then Deku, he's the red now. He's like, yeah, sure. And then like she smiles and she's like, great. And then she runs inside. You know, Deku walks. He's like, oh god damn it! I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you. And, you know, and then he yells out, Shoto! Like, you know, basically, you know, Endeavor, he has like he has his father sense of tingling. He's like, I didn't know I had these. You know, he's like my proud father's senses are tingling, but I didn't know I had these. Like, he didn't know I had these abilities because, you know, he didn't know he could be a father. But he's just proud because Deku yelled Shoto. But